श्वेत चंद्र जय घोर भक्त वृंदा, जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंदा, श्री अद्वैत चंद्र जय घोर भक्त वृंदा, जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंदा, श्री अद्वैत चंद्र जय घोर भक्त वृंदा, स्वेद कंप रोमांच सुगद गद वैवर्ण्य, उन्माद विषाधैर्य गर्व हर्ष दैन्य, एत भावे प्रेम भक्त गणेरे नचाया, कृष्ण रे आनंदामृत सागरे भासाया, एत भावे प्रेम भक्त गणेरे नचाया, कृष्ण रे आनंदामृत सागरे भासाया, एत भावे प्रेम भक्त गणेरे नचाया, कृष्ण रे आनंदामृत सागरे भासाया। शब्दार्थ मेरे पीछे बोलिए। स्वेदा पसीना, कंप कंपन, रोमांच रोमांच, अश्रु अश्रु, गदगद गदगद होना, वैवर्ण्य शरीर का रंग बदलना, उन्माद उन्माद, विषाद विषाद, धैर्य धैर्य, गर्व अभिमान गर्व, हर्ष हर्ष, दैन्य विनम्रता, एता बहुत प्रकार से, भावे भाव में, प्रेमा ईश प्रेम, भक्त गणेरे भक्तों को नाचाया नचाता है, कृष्णेरा भगवान कृष्ण का, आनंद दिव्य आनंद, अमृत अमृत, सागरे सागर में, भासाया तैरता है। अनुवाद और तात्पर्य जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद जी के द्वारा। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। मेरे पीछे दोहराइए। पसीना, कंप कंपी, रोगों का खड़ा होना, आंसू, वाणी का अवरोध, पीला पड़ना, पागलपन, विषाद, धैर्य, गर्व, हर्ष तथा दीनता, ये भगवत प्रेम के विविध प्राकृतिक लक्षण हैं जो भक्त को हरे कृष्ण मंत्र के कीर्तन करते समय दिव्य आनंद के सागर में नचाते और तैराते हैं। तात्पर्य श्रवण कीजिए। श्रील जीव गोस्वामी अपने ग्रंथ प्रीति संदर्भ श्लोक 66 में भगवत प्रेम की इस अवस्था का वर्णन करते हैं। भगवत प्रीति रूपावृतिर मायादि मयि नाह भवति किम तरहि स्वरूप सत्यानंद रूपा यदानंद पराधीना श्री भगवान अपीति। इसी प्रकार 69वें श्लोक में वे और आगे व्याख्या करते हैं। तदेवं प्रीतेर्लक्षणं चित्तद्रवस्तस्य चरोमहर्षादिकं कतचिञ्च जातेऽपि चित्तद्रवे रोमहर्षादिके वा न चेदाश युशुद्धिस्तदापि न भक्तेः सम्यग् आविर्भाव इति ज्ञापितम् आयशु यशुद्धीर्नां चान्य तात्पर्य परित्यागः प्रेति तात्पर्या च अतएव निमित्ता स्वाभाविकी चेति तद्विशेषणम्। दिव्य भगवत प्रेम भौतिक शक्ति के अंतर्गत नहीं आता, क्योंकि यह पूर्ण पुरुषोत्तम भगवान का दिव्य आनंद और आह्लादिनी शक्ति है। चूंकि भगवान दिव्य आनंद के वशीभूत हैं, अतएव जब किसी को ऐसे भगवत प्रेम के आनंद का स्पर्श होता है तो उसका हृदय द्रवित हो उठता है और शरीर में रोमांच आदि लक्षण प्रकट हो आते हैं। कभी कभी व्यक्ति में हृदय द्रवित होने तथा रोमांच आदि दिव्य लक्षण तो देखे जाते हैं, किंतु उसका आचरण आदर्श नहीं होता। इससे पता चलता है कि उसे अभी भक्ति में जीवन की पूर्णता प्राप्त नहीं हो पाई। दूसरे शब्दों में, जो व्यक्ति भाववश नाचता है किंतु नाचने और रोने के बाद भौतिक व्यापारों के प्रति आकृष्ट होता है, तो उसे भक्ति की वह पूर्णता नहीं प्राप्त हुई है जिसे आशय शुद्धि कहते हैं। जिसे आशय शुद्धि प्राप्त हो जाती है वह भौतिक भोग से पूर्णतया विरक्त हो जाता है और दिव्य भगवत प्रेम में डूब जाता है। इससे यही निष्कर्ष निकलता है कि आशय शुद्धि के लक्षण तभी प्रकट होते हैं जब भक्त की सेवा का कोई भौतिक कारण नहीं होता और वह नितांत आध्यात्मिक होती है। श्रीमद् भागवत 1:2-6 में भगवत प्रेम के यही लक्षण बतलाए गए हैं। सवे पुंसाम परो धर्म यतो भक्तिरधोक्षजे अहेतुकी अप्रतिहता ययात्मा सुर प्रसीदति। वह धर्म सर्वश्रेष्ठ है जो अपने अनुयायियों को भगवत प्रेम में भाव में बना देता है और जो निष्काम तथा भौतिक बाधाओं से मुक्त होता है, क्योंकि केवल इसी से आत्मा पूरी तरह प्रसन्न हो सकता है। ओम ज्ञान तिमिरांधस्य ज्ञानांजन शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिभे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभयश्च कृपा सिन्धु भयेभजा पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात देश धारिणी। बता देते हैं थोड़ा। तो इसमें प्रभु जी आने ही वाले हैं, जस्ट टू रीच। इसमें कोई शंका नहीं, शायद आ गए हैं। तो तब तक कुछ इस प्यार के आधार पर हम समझने का प्रयास करते हैं। इस समय भगवान श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु ये ग्लोरिफिकेशन कर रहे हैं हरि नाम का, जिसमें हमारे इस्कॉन के भक्तों को बहुत रुचि है। सुबह से लेके 4:30 बजे से लेके और शनिवार को तो पूरी रात वो कीर्तन करते रहते हैं। तो उसके लक्षण बता रहे हैं भगवान श्री चैतन्य यहाँ पर। पसीना, कंपकपी, रोओं का खड़ा होना, आंसू, वाणी का अवरोध, पीला पड़ना, पागलपन, विषाद, धैर्य, गर्व, हर्ष तथा दीनता, ये भगवत प्रेम के विविध प्राकृतिक लक्षण हैं। तो भगवान क्या कह रहे हैं यहाँ पर? प्राकृतिक अर्थ होता है ये नेचुरल है एक्चुअली। जब किसी के अंदर पवित्रता आती है, शुद्धता आती है, तो क्या होगा? वो नेचुरल बाय डिफॉल्ट ऐसा करेगा। तो एक बार श्रील प्रभुपाद जी के एक सन्यासी शिष्य ने पूछा कि प्रभुपाद हमारे साथ ऐसा कब होगा? हम कब ऐसा ये सब फीलिंग कर पाएंगे? कैसे हमें पता चलेगा कि हमारा भगवान के धाम में क्या रूप है? कब हम उसको रेलिश करेंगे? तो प्रभुपाद जी ने कहा, डू नॉट ट्राई आर्टिफिशियली, इट विल कम ऑटोमेटिकली, जस्ट फॉलो द रूल एंड रेगुलेशन विच आई गिव यू। सो प्रभुपाद का कहना क्या था? ये सब में हमने ये सुन करके, ये पढ़ करके ऐसा नहीं सोचना कल से मैं भी थोड़ी कपकपी दिखाऊंगा। प्रभु जी में कपकपी आई भाई, थोड़ा आई और आंसू। तो ये बाय डिफॉल्ट आएगा। जब भक्त इस स्थिति में पहुंचता है, उसका प्योरिफिकेशन होता है भक्तों के संग से और ग्रंथों के अध्ययन से, विशेष रूप से हरि नाम के जपा से, जब उसके अंदर प्योरिफिकेशन आता है तो ये बाय डिफॉल्ट आने चाहिए। मतलब अगर कोई लेकर आता है ऐसे, तो उसको क्या कहेंगे? प्रभुपाद जी क्या बोलते थे उसको? सहजिया। अगर जबरदस्ती वो दिखाता है कि मुझ में भी ये भाव आ रहे हैं, तो ये सहज भाव हो गया एक्चुअली, जो भगवान यहां पर बता रहे हैं। लेकिन अगर किस वास्तव में कोई बहुत ही गंभीर है, जैसे प्रभुपाद का एक बार घटना मिलती है कि एक बार एक व्यक्ति आता था मंदिर में, और वो मंदिर में आकर खड़ा होकर के चिल्लाता था, रोता था, तो बहुत ऐसा दिखाता था कि जैसे बहुत शुद्ध हो गया है। तो भक्तों ने जाकर प्रभुपाद को बताया कि प्रभुपाद एक भक्त है, वो आता है मंदिर में और ऐसे ऐसे लक्षण प्रकट कर रहा है, वो तो उसकी आंखों में आंसू भी आते हैं और ऐसा पीला पड़ जाता है। तो प्रभुपाद जी क्या बोले? एक संटी तोड़ के लाओ, और जब वो मंदिर में अगली बार ऐसा करे तो क्या करो? उसको पीछे से मारो। अगर वो शुद्ध होगा तो वो वही भाव प्रकट करेगा, लेकिन अगर डुप्लीकेट होगा तो भाग जाएगा। तो अगले दिन वही हुआ, वो आया तो भक्तों ने पहले तोड़ के रखी थी संटी और जैसे उसने ये किया तो उसको जब पिटाई की तो भाग गया चिल्लाता हुआ। तो एक्चुअल में ये जो प्यार है, इससे हमें ये हमारा एक्चुअली लक्ष्य है, ये गोल है कि जब ऐसा होना शुरू हो। हाँ, इसमें हमें एक और भी बात ध्यान रखनी है कि अगर ऐसी स्थिति सचमुच में भी आ रही है हमारे साथ, तो भी हमें इन भाव को पब्लिकली प्रकट नहीं करना है। इसलिए भगवान चैतन्य कभी कभी पूछते थे ऐसा भक्तों से, जब वो आंतरिक भाव में चले जाते थे, तो फिर बाद में जब वो बाहरी भाव में आते थे तो वो पूछते थे, मैंने हे स्वरूप दामोदर, मैंने कुछ ऐसा तो नहीं किया था जो कुछ पब्लिकल नहीं करना चाहिए। तो स्वरूप दामोदर और रामन रॉय उनको बताते थे कि नहीं महाप्रभु आपने ऐसा नहीं किया। तो इसका अर्थ यह है कि अगर हमारे अंदर ऐसे नेचुरल में भी ये भाव आए, तो भक्तों को क्या चाहिए कि उनको पब्लिक अगर प्लेस में है तो रोक लेना चाहिए। ऐसा नहीं कि अब नेचुरल आ रहे हैं तो चलो मैं थोड़ा सा तो दिखाई देता हूं, वो नहीं होना चाहिए। पब्लिक प्लेस में ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए, क्योंकि इससे क्या होगा? इससे नुकसान होगा कि सहजिया भाव प्रकट होगा। सब लोग यही करना शुरू कर देंगे जिनके अंदर ये भाव नहीं भी है। तो अगर आप भक्तों ने प्रभुपाद का एक हिंदी का लेक्चर है, अगर शायद सबने सुना होगा हिंदी का लेक्चर, प्रभुपाद उसमें बहुत ही ऐसे शब्दों का प्रयोग करते हैं। प्रभुपाद जी उसमें कह रहे हैं कि मैंने उसको कई बार रिवर्स करके सुना इस लेक्चर को, इसलिए जानबूझ करके प्रभुपाद ने ऐसा कैसे बोला। तो प्रभुपाद बोल रहे हैं कि आजकल देखिए लोग भागवत कथा करते हैं, आजकल लोग भागवत कथा करते हैं, और जब भागवत कथा कर चुके होते हैं तो बाहर में जाते हैं और बाहर में उनका गला सूखने लगता है और फिर वो क्या मांगते हैं? बीड़ी मांगते हैं। प्रभुपाद ये कहकर हिंदी के लेक्चर में बोलते हैं कि फिर वो बीड़ी मांगते हैं क्योंकि उनका गला सूख गया है भागवत करते करते। वहां पर प्रभुपाद ने ऐसा कहा, मैंने 2 बार रिवर्स करके सुना इसको, वो साला क्या बताएगा जिसका जिसका गला सूख गया भागवत से और वो बीड़ी मांगता है, वो साला क्या बताएगा। ये प्रभुपाद ने बोला हिंदी के लेक्चर में। तो आगे, यस, इस ग्रेस चैतन्य चरण प्रभु जी की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे।
So on the behalf of ISKCON Dwarka, we would like to welcome His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji. So today we are very fortunate that we have our inspirational source. So Prabhuji has inspired all of us for so many years, and after so many years we invite Prabhuji again to our ISKCON Dwarka community. So just a short brief introduction of Prabhuji. All of you know, you have already heard Prabhuji so much. And so Prabhuji graduated from College of Engineering Pune, and after doing job, Prabhuji got triggered on this point that there is a lack of devotees who are not preaching Bhagavad Gita, but there are a lot of engineers in the world. So having this idea, he started preaching widely. Nowadays Prabhuji is preaching in all over the world, Australia, America. Just recently Prabhuji may come from Australia, Melbourne, and now Prabhuji has started doing his traveling in India as well. And Prabhuji has written a lot of books, more than 30 books, and his books are the resource material for many of the preachers of ISKCON devotees nowadays. And believe me, personally, we use all the content, all the source from Prabhuji's website, gitadaily.com, spiritualscientist.com. Prabhuji has answered more than 6,000 questions of different varieties of flavors, जो भी different scientific background and all. Apart from scientific preaching, when Prabhuji was in the Pune, and then thinking that world needs and he can do more, Prabhuji shifted and start traveling through the Chopati and all. So in this phase, and he start answering the real life challenges also. Apart from scientific preaching, means he start helping the devotees on their emotional level and how can they connect to Krishna by having the emotional strength. So just a brief introduction, and today we are fortunate to have the books of Prabhuji also. After the seminar, I request devotees so they can take it and they can personally get signed from Prabhuji over here. So now we are going to hear from Prabhuji. We have done the translation, So Prabhuji has a unique way of teaching now. So Prabhuji has brought his tablet, and you will see something which Prabhuji will be making us understanding over here. So you can see in the between this slide over there. So very soon it will come, and it's like a basically a teaching classroom. So a teacher is sitting in front of you, and he will display somewhere. So over to you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So, I'm grateful to be here with all of you, and my apologies for the inordinate delay. So I'll be speaking on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we're discussing in the section about ecstasy. So the verse describes how there are various symptoms of ecstasy. So I'll talk about this ecstasy in 3 terms. You know, if you consider, there is the inner experience of ecstasy. What happened? When did it go off just now? It's not going. Let me see. Okay, it's come good. Thank you. So, there is the inner experience of ecstasy. Then there are the outer symptoms of ecstasy. And then there are the outer stimuli of ecstasy. So, broadly speaking, there is something outside. Say Yashoda Mai sees Krishna, and Krishna is coming in the evening after herding the cows, and as soon as she sees him, that sight just fills her heart with love. So the sight is the outer stimuli. Then there is an inner experience of joy, and that experience of joy may have some external characteristics. So for example, maybe tears start coming from her eyes, milk starts overflowing from her breasts, and maybe her hair stands on end, whatever it is. So we could put it simply cause and characteristic. Another way you could put it. The simple terms, stimuli and symptoms. So there is a cause, there is a characteristic, and there is the inner experience. So generally ecstasy is a very devotional subject, but I will give a very non-devotional presentation of a very devotional subject. What I mean is that I'll focus on a little more on analysis, and I'll explain why this is important. See, among these 3, if you consider the stimuli, the experience, and the symptoms, which is most important? Yes, the experience is most important. We'll consider this now from the perspective that if there is experience, if we consider, say, a 4-quadrant situation, there's experience and there are symptoms. Now what has happened is that in general, wherever there are spiritual traditions, anybody who exhibit these symptoms is considered a great soul, is considered a very elevated soul. And this is across religious traditions. In the Sufi tradition, for example, there are people who are the dervish. They just go into some kind of trance and they start going round and round and round and round and round. And normally a person goes round and round, they get vertigo and fall down. But when these people, they just don't, they just keep going on and on and on. In the Christian tradition, they have the idea of the passion of Christ. Now, words have different meanings in different contexts. Normally, we use the word passion to refer to Rajoguna. So sometimes if we don't know the meaning of words, sometimes we may think, what is going on over here? I was in Leicester, I gave a youth meeting, and it was very nice question answers were there. And after that, the organizer, devotee, came to me with a big smile on his face. And he said, Prabhu, you killed it. I said, I was concerned, what did I kill? And why are you so happy if I killed something? So, their kill is used in a non-literal sense. That kill, it comes from a hunting metaphor. That is, some group of people are going for hunting, and one person shoots and hits the target. They appreciate, oh, good target, good shooting. you killed it. So sometimes words have different meanings. So in our tradition, generally the word passion refers to Rajoguna. However, in their case, but the word passion also has another meaning, a more positive meaning. We all want to find what is our passion in our life. Like some people are passionate for music, some people are passionate for sports, some people may be passionate for art, and some people may be passionate even for God. So passion has a positive sense. So in their tradition, passion refers to the deep emotion that Jesus experienced, and because of which his body was transformed. So that's why there is a movie, Passion of Christ, which talks about especially the agony of Jesus. So what happens is, they say, according to their tradition, those who are very evolved saints, they get so immersed in Jesus' meditation that the same bodily marks that were on Jesus' body came on them. When Jesus was crucified, his body was pierced. So something similar. Now even, I'll start from broader perspective, even sometimes in our broad tradition also, when there is this idea of possession, that sometimes the goddess possesses some people. If you go to some temples, and those people, some people say that they start moving in a little strange ways, and then it seems that when they are speaking, it's not actually that person speaking, there is God speaking through them, or something, the God is speaking through them. Recently there was this South Indian movie, Kantara, which also had this idea of the Varaha Rupam, possessing the person. So this idea of this some kind of extraordinary experience happening, and that leading to some kind of extraordinary behavior. This is there in various traditions of the world. Within the Vedic tradition, outside the Vedic tradition. And generally, if it is in a society that is pious, that values religion and spirituality, then such people are considered very special. Oh, you are having some extraordinary experience. So when Srila Prabhupada went to America, at that time they had that idea in the 1960s that drugs are the way to spiritual growth. So at that time what would happen is Prabhupada would be giving a class, and sometimes some people would be high on drugs and they would start speaking something. Start suddenly getting up, because when you are drugged, you are not in control of your faculty. One of the things that intoxicants do is they lower our natural inhibitions. The way we would normally behave, there are some curves on our behavior. Right? Sometimes you will see in movies, some person becomes drunk and yells at someone, beats someone up. So our natural inhibitions go down when somebody is intoxicated. So what would happen is sometimes people would just get up and start speaking. And Prabhupada would look at his disciples, tell them to stop. And they would say, Prabhupada, if you stop them, it will be aparad. So these people would be, there was a term for them, they're called as LSD saints. They have taken LSD and now they are getting some vision and they're speaking out that vision. So just as if some devotee is in ecstasy, we don't disturb them. So like that, they are in ecstasy. You can't disturb them. So why am I giving this analysis? That in every circle where some kind of spirituality and spiritual experience are respected, then certain people or people who seem to be having some extraordinary experiences are also respected. In fact, they're esteemed highly. But this has a natural negative fallout. And that negative fallout is some people pretend to exhibit the symptoms. So the ideal situation is this, where there is the inner experience and there are the outer symptoms because of the inner experience. But some people may not have the inner experience at all. So this is authentic. Then this is deceptive. Isn't it? So there are symptoms, but no experience within. So Gaur Kishodas Babaji would give the example that if say a woman is pregnant and she's nearing the delivery, then if she screams in pain, At that time, everybody runs over there. Okay, now she's going to deliver a child. We take care of her. What do we need to do for her? We take her to the hospital. Pay attention to her. Now, seeing this, or seeing how much this woman is getting attention, if some other woman thinks, I also want attention, and she also starts screaming, but she's not pregnant. Then, the first woman screaming will actually lead to something wonderful. A new life is going to come about. But second woman screaming, nothing is going to happen by that. Isn't it? So, if there is only the outer symptoms, but no inner experience, then that is deceptive. Either the person is deceiving others, or sometimes the person may be deceiving themselves also. Most of the times, the symptoms are coming, and they don't come automatically. They are being pretended. So they are trying to deceive others. So Bhakti-Siddhanta Swami Thakur would say that what is the price of ecstasy? He said it is the price of an onion. If people consider tears are the price of ecstasy, just get an onion, put it in your eyes, tears will come. Isn't it? So these people who exhibit the symptoms without the experience, they are called as sahajiyas. So this is an ever-present danger in our tradition. And in fact, this was actually even greater danger than what we think. We think, okay, somebody pretending that they're experiencing spiritual ecstasy. Okay, they're just pretending. What's the problem in that? They're deceiving themselves. Maybe some other people get deceived. We may think it's not a serious problem. But however, it became a much more serious problem than what we may anticipate. And I'll explain why that happened. So now, we'll come back to this. So the whole, the whole class will be in a sense summarized in this particular 4-quadrant diagram. Okay, can we turn off one of the lights so that will be clearer? I realize that. Let me see if I change the color. Is it clearer also? White background or white color? No, white background or white text? Okay, sorry. Good one. See, okay, let me see. So generally, if something is not visible, one time I gave the whole class, and somehow this projector was a little ahead. So I couldn't see the projector. And then nobody spoke anything, but I could see everybody was looking at me as if they were like watching a foreign language movie without subtitles. Then I asked him, what happened? And I said, why did you tell me? He said, Prabhu, we wanted to be humble. So I said, that is not humility, that is with all due respects, it is stupidity. So this is also not very good. But if I use black over here. Okay, so let me redraw this. Is it clearer? Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the first was, should I redraw the first also? First was visible. The first was basically, okay, let me quickly do this. This whole, we're talking about for spiritual experience. When we talk about a spiritual experience, there are 3 things. Okay, let's avoid this. So there is the experience itself. There is the experience. Now when there is the experience, there are the characteristics or there are the symptoms. And then there are the causes or the stimuli that lead. So something external leads to something external, leads to something internal. And then something internal leads to some outer manifestation of that, outer symptom of that. So now among these, we could say this is the most important, the inner experience. So then we are discussing this 4-quadrant diagram over here, that if we have experience and we have symptoms. The authentic thing is this. That there is the inner experience and that leads to outer symptoms. Now this is deceptive. Okay, this is deceptive. Now I said this is deceptive, but it's also dangerous, especially dangerous within the Gaudiya tradition. Why? Because, see, there are broadly two approaches to spiritual growth. See, one is, we understand this is the spiritual level, this is the material level. And how does spiritual growth happen? We raise our consciousness from the spiritual level, material level, to the spiritual level. So that is why, for example, we say that we should not gratify our senses too much. We have some regulative principles. Otherwise, what happens is bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya apaharita chetasam. That our consciousness gets locked in matter. And if it is locked in matter over here, then it cannot rise towards spirit. So we could say that if we just indulge in this, then it becomes locked over here. It's like, acts like a lock. So that's why we need to regulate our interaction with matter. So that's one approach to spirituality. That we leave matter behind and rise towards spirit. That, and in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is in the start he is very categorical, differentiating. This is the body, this is the soul. The body is temporary, the soul is eternal. Antavantai me deha nityasyoktaha sharirinaha. So this approach centers on separation. Separation of matter and spirit. However, so this is broadly, you can say, the approach of Vedanta. So why is this going off like this? So this is the approach of Vedanta. Now, apart from that, there is another approach to spirit. And that is the approach of what is called as Tantra. Now, the word Tantra often has a negative connotation. And I'll explain why the negative connotation is there and why that is justified and also unjustified. See, Tantra is also a very old tradition. And in Tantra, the idea is that if we consider spirit to be here, spiritual reality to be here, what they say is that rather than thinking matter to be here, they say that matter is the path to spirit. So rather than leaving matter to go towards spirit, we use matter to reach spirit. So if I am here, I use matter to reach spirit. So here if we have, here if a person is here, that person needs to rise from material level to spiritual level. So for example, now when we do deity worship, in deity worship what are we doing? We of course say that Krishna as deity is not matter, but at the same time the deity is made of matter. It is in the matter Krishna is manifesting. Just like a paper currency, like we have currency notes, they are paper, but they are much more than paper, isn't it? So if a mother may tell, if you see a child, if you see any paper lying on the ground, throw it into the trash bin. But the child takes a 500 note and starts saying, hey, don't throw it. Says, you told me to throw paper. He says, this is not paper, this is Lakshmi Devi. Really? This is paper only. No, you need intelligence to understand the difference. So similarly, matter is when it is infused with spirit, it is different. And matter can be the way to spirit. So this is the basic idea of Tantra. That matter, rather than leaving matter behind to go towards spirit, we can use matter to go towards spirit. Now within Tantra, there are two parts of it. There's what is called the auspicious Tantra, or the left-hand Tantra and the right-hand Tantra. So what is the key difference between these two? The one which is considered more auspicious and one which is considered a little more inauspicious. That is, in auspicious Tantra, we say some matter can be used to approach spirit. So some matter means it is that we can say that there are some things in the material world, whereas the inauspicious tantra says all matter can be used to approach spirit. So for example, some matter means we say that food, some special food that is offered to Krishna, and then we take it, it is prasad. It is sanctified food and it purifies us. But does that mean so we can say we can offer meat and beef and things like that to Krishna? Will that become sanctified? No. No, because in matter also there are gradations. There is sattva, rajas, tamas. The sattva is more pro-spiritual. And rajas, we could say is, so why this differentiation? Because we can say in matter, if all this is matter, then there are multiple levels in matter. There is sattva, and this is pro-spiritual. So in general, sattva is, something in sattva, it's relatively easy to connect with Krishna. So for example, in some places, we may not be able to have directly devotional kirtans. So if we have some soothing music of some sitar or something like that, that also calms the mind down. And then we have a spiritual discourse, some sitar or veena or something like that, that calms the mind down. So like that, sattva is pro-spiritual. That if we have rajas, that generally is non-spiritual. And tamas is anti-spiritual. You guessed it. So we differentiate even matter. Although all matter is temporary, some matter is more conducive to move towards the eternal, and some matter is not. So the bhakti tradition uses the auspicious tantra. That means we understand that some matter can be used to reach spirit. Whereas the inauspicious tantra says that all matter can be used to reach spirit. So people say that any food that you eat, it doesn't matter. Because it's a matter of consciousness. So I was at one science and spirituality conference, and then there was this tantra teacher, and he was saying everything is a matter of the mind. He said for the last 20 years, every single day I smoke and drink. And he's called Shri Guruji. So he said, I smoke and drink every day. But I have no heart problems, no lung problems, no liver problems. Why? Because my mind is spiritual. So he says, if your mind is spiritual, then smoking, drinking, it's not material, it's also becomes spiritual. Well, not really. This person, he claimed like that, and 15 days after that conference, he got a heart attack and died. So now some people may have some past good karma. Now what happens is if somebody has past good karma, then their present actions don't lead to immediate consequences. Just like if somebody may be wasting a lot of money, but if they have inherited a lot of money from the past, then what happens is they're wasting money right now, but still they have money in their bank account. But eventually that money is going to get exhausted, isn't it? It may be a lot, but it's not infinite. So like that, if somebody has a lot of good karma from their past, in their karma, we can say karma bank account, then they may do some bad things. But still, it is that they don't seem to get any bad results. Like you see some people, if somebody has by past karma, they have a good digestive system. Or some people have bad digestive system. They ate a little food and their stomach, a little inappropriate food, little spicy, little oily, little sweet, they get all disturbed. Some people have like a chronic tendency towards obesity. Little more food and their body swells up. There are some other people, they treat their tongue like a conveyor belt. So anything and everything goes in, and yet they seem to be thin, they seem to be fit and healthy, and nothing seems to be happening. Well, actually, actions will have consequences. But sometimes, some actions have delayed consequences. So just because they have delayed consequences doesn't mean they will not have consequences. And sometimes, some small action may have a huge consequence because there is some negative karma from the past that is also coming. So when somebody eats a little inappropriate food and they get a little severe reaction, that is not just because of the inappropriate food, that is also because of some past karma. So the point I'm making is, some people seem to be like this. They say, I am spiritual, and they're doing all sensual things. But are they being spiritual? Well, if they seem to be spiritual, that is simply because of some past good karma from their life, because of which they seem to be going on with that. But that will not last. So the point is that Tantra, from the auspicious Tantra, is what we accept. That we all, in the Bhakti tradition, Bhakti tradition actually, in some ways, what we do is we incorporate Vedanta and Tantra. So Vedanta means matter and spirit are separate. Understand that they are separate, and we have to rise from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. But at the same time, we also recognize that matter can be used to reach spirit. And this is why we have the principle of Yukta Vairagya. So Yukta Vairagya is an adaptation of the idea from Tantra. So Tantra is not all bad, but because generally when people start indulging with matter, they become quite indiscriminate in indulging with matter. And that's why even the auspicious Tantra, if it is not regulated, it can go towards inauspicious very easily. So now, having said this, so the topic we're discussing is about ecstasy. And we're discussing the second quadrant, that is the quadrant of Sahajya. So what is it? Means characteristic and experience? Yes, no inner experience, but outer symptoms they are showing. So what happened in our tradition was that, see, there is, we think of Sahajya as people suddenly seem to dance in ecstasy or have tears coming out of their eyes and things like that. Yeah, that is relatively harmless. Some people may be deceived by it, but that is relatively harmless. However, there was a more toxic form of Sahajyaism. And what was that? That, see, Radha Krishna are the divine couple. And they unite at a transcendental level. They have Ras Lila. They have divine pastimes at the transcendental level. And what the Bhagavatam says is that actually those are not to be imitated. Because at the material level, if somebody imitates, they will be fixated in material consciousness. The Bhagavatam at the end says that Vikriditam Vrajabadubhir idam cha Vishnu Shraddhanvito Anushrunayadata Varanayedya Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam Ridrogam Ashwa Pahinotya Achirena Dhiraha. What the Bhagavatam says is that if we hear properly, in parampara, if we hear with proper understanding the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, then kama is sensual desire, which causes the male-female attraction. That will decrease in our heart. And that's a remarkable claim to make. Because normally, if somebody sees a romantic movie, somebody sees a sensual movie, they will get the desire to do something similar in their life. The desires will increase. But the Bhagavatam says the opposite will happen. Now, how does that happen? That happens because when we hear Krishna Lila, we understand it through a philosophical perspective. So to understand this, let's put it like this. You say, if there is a real tree and there are some mangoes in the tree. This is so this is the reflection and this is the reality. So what happens is, we can say Krishna Lila is the reality. And we can say mundane romance is like the reflection. So even the reflection is attractive. If an object is attractive, its reflection will also be attractive. But if somebody sees this beautiful mango, but they're not seeing the mango, they're seeing the reflection. And they dive into the river to get the reflection. They may search and search and search, but they won't get anything. Isn't it? So, when we hear Krishna Lila properly, then what we understand is, we understand this is the reality. And if we understand this is the reality, we get attracted to it, and this, we get detached from it. So this is the consequence. When we hear Krishna Lila in Parampara, we understand that is the pure reciprocation of love. And it is not just Krishna with the gopis, Krishna with the gopas, Krishna with his parents. And we all can be a part of that real love. And when we understand that is enduring love, then the infatuation with mundane relationships, that goes down. However, when can this happen? Only when one understands that that is the reality and this is the reflection. If one has not philosophically understood that properly, then what will happen is, they will think, oh, that is reality and this is also reality. So then, that will remind us of this. Or sometimes people say, that is fantasy and this is reality. So there are some stories and this is the reality. So that's why understanding philosophy is important. And when you understand philosophy properly, then attraction to Krishna leads to decrease in attachment to worldly sensuality. Now, this is the principle. And for helping us develop attraction to Krishna, there is a huge tradition. There are Krishna's deities, there are dramas about Krishna. Especially if you go to Ayodhya, there is this Ram Lila. When you say Ram Lila, normally it's not just Lord Ram's pastimes, it's Lord Ram's pastimes being depicted. And generally, when those Ram Lila's pastimes are depicted, say if a child is playing the role of Lord Ram, then for that day, even the father will come and offer obeisance to the child. And then the whole village will do puja of that person. That person will think, I have become Ram now. No, they're playing that role. And when they're playing that role, they are treated like that. And the idea is, this kind of drama, this kind of Lila is meant to help our senses get an experience of Krishna, get an experience of Lord Ram. So just as there's a Ram Lila is much more celebrated in Dwarka, in Ayodhya, but we have similarly Krishna Lila also in Vrindavan. But, so in this, they're very, very careful. So for example, say if there is Ram and Sita, it is not a boy and a girl are playing it, or sometimes two boys are playing it, boy takes on the role of a girl. It is not that the boy and a girl develop a relationship with each other because of that. No, they understand this is sacred and this is a play. And it is done within very regulated parameters. But what the Sahajiyas did, so within that, when okay, now there is, if this class is becoming too complicated, don't worry, it's going to become only more complicated. So it is going to be technical, but we'll have time for questions, so it won't be too difficult. So there is the concept within the tradition of something called Avesh. So say if somebody is playing the role of Ram and Sita, this is a natak, this is a drama going on. Then if they are actually in a proper prayerful mood while doing that drama, then it is thought that actually the spirit of Ram and Sita enter in that person. So there's some kind of, what is the word is Avesh. So Avesh is similar to and different from avatar. So it is not exactly avatar is the Lord himself descends. But Avesh is like a spirit, a fragment of that person descends. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is described that sometimes Nakula Brahmachari, when he would speak almost like in the voice and tone of Mahaprabhu. And they would understand that actually the Avesh of the Lord has come over here. So this idea of Avesh is a part of the tradition. That's why I said, when the child becomes Ram, then even the father may offer obeisances to the child. But the first is understood that Avesh is temporary. And that Avesh is meant only for the purpose of enacting that drama. And that drama is being enacted to help others, to help everyone involved become more conscious of the Lord. Now the Sahajiyas, so this idea of Avesh is also to some extent a part of Tantra. Like spirit manifests in matter to help us rise towards spirit. To help us, so it's like this, like both Avesh and Avatar, they have a common, that the idea is the divine comes here to raise our human consciousness. So there is a divine descent. Descent is to come down, and there is the human ascent. Ascent is to go up. So this is consciousness goes up. So that is the purpose of this. But what the Sahajiyas did, they started doing the same thing. They started performing Radha Krishna pastimes. But within that, they started imitating the Ras Lila. And their men and women would start having immoral contact with each other. And then, as if that was not bad enough, they would justify it saying, it's not actually I and this woman doing this, or this man and this woman doing this. Actually it is Krishna and Radha entering into our bodies and they are enjoying through us. Well, this is horrendous. Radha and Krishna don't need messy, smelly physical bodies to enjoy. Isn't it? They have transcendental forms. So this led to not just, see, it's one thing is immorality. But the other thing is justified immorality, rationalized immorality. It's like somebody does wrong and then they have to prove how I am right in doing wrong. That is far worse. At least if somebody does wrong and they acknowledge they're wrong, there's a chance of doing it, making it right. But somebody uses their intelligence to try to prove how they are right. That is really bad. And what is worse is, they not only use their intelligence, but they do it in the name of religion. They do it in the name of God. Then that is not only they're doing bad, but they're actually alienating people away from God. So that's why you could say that if you go downwards here, there is immorality, which is itself bad. Just for a person to succumb to their senses, to have kind of some affair or something like that, that is bad. But if you see, there is rationalized immorality. Rationalized means that you use your intelligence to try to prove that what which is wrong is right. That's rationalized immorality. And worse than rationalized immorality. You know, rationalized immorality, example of this could be, in the 1960s, 1950s, 60s, the evidence became very clear that smoking causes cancer. Or not just cancer, a lot of especially lung-related diseases. But at that time, if you look at the movies in the 50s, 60s, or 40s, 50s, 60s, almost the hero would always be smoking. That was like a fashion statement. You're cool. You're a fool, actually. Not cool. But anyway, it was there. And tobacco was big business. So what the tobacco industries did at that time was, they funded some research. And that research, the 3 papers published in 3 influential science journals. And all of them said that actually, it is not that smoking causes lung problems. Rather, there is some unknown gene in the body which makes people inclined to smoke and which makes people inclined to have lung problems. So what they were doing is basically taking the heat of smoking. You know, we are not telling you to smoke, you are smoking. And why are you smoking? You're not a bad person because you're smoking, you have this gene. And the gene makes you smoke. The gene makes you joke and the gene causes lung problems. No evidence of this gene. So that gene was invented so that the smoking industry could go on in business. So this is an example of rationalization. So you're doing something wrong, but you're using the intelligence to justify that. But worse than that is actually religiously rationalized immorality. Religiously rationalized immorality. So this is the worst. Well, because here people get a negative perception of religion, of God. And that is actually going to prevent them from doing that which will help them to become better human beings, help them to grow spiritually. That's why So Sahajiaism took this form, where immoral contact with men and women was being justified in the name of this being the Ras Lila, Radha and Krishna coming in. And that's why our acharyas were very strong against it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur and especially Bhakti Saraswati Thakur. That the experience, if there are simply the characteristics being manifested, but there's no experience, then that person is being deceptive. And it's not just harmlessly deceptive, it is toxically deceptive. Okay? So that is the second part. Now, you remember we're going to this 4-quadrant diagram. So, okay, yeah, I have written over here. So there's deceptive, this is, now if there is no experience and there are no symptoms, then that is just mundane life. That person is just living basically like, basically animal existence. No offense intended, but that person, what are they going to seek? They're going to seek some food, they're going to seek some sensual pleasures. So that's what, it's almost like animal existence. So now, this is, we could say this is undesirable, this is super undesirable. This is desirable. Now what about the 4th quadrant? So what is the 4th quadrant? There is inner experience, but no outer symptoms. So it's significant that both Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur and Srila Prabhupada emphasize this. This is safe. This is recommended. Now, Prabhupada was remarkably restrained in the expression of ecstasy. Prabhupada, there are a few times when, in the early days, in the 1960s, when one devotee asked Prabhupada about the Goswamis and their love for Krishna, Jadurani Mataji asked, and Prabhupada was speaking, it's a very nice question, Prabhupada started speaking about them, and then suddenly Prabhupada stopped speaking, his eyes were wide open, and he was looking at them, and everybody in that room became just completely silent. The devotees over there, I talked with 2-3 of Prabhupada disciples over there at that time, they said that we felt as if Prabhupada had left that room. His body was there, but as if he had gone to be with Krishna. As he was speaking about Krishna, he was absorbed in Krishna. So, there are times like that when Prabhupada did that. Once when Prabhupada came to South America for the first time, the only time actually, he had come for the first time and there were Gaurnitai deities. And the whole room was full of devotees singing and dancing. And Prabhupada was amazed, delighted, ecstatic. And Prabhupada said, Parama Karuna Pahu Dui Jani. How merciful they are. And he was speaking about their mercy. He just lost himself. He couldn't speak at that time. So there are a few times like that. But Prabhupada de-emphasized that. There was one devotee who was serving Srila Prabhupada, and it happened with several of Prabhupada's assistants. Shrutakirti Prabhu was there once. And he said, Prabhupada, whenever you come to a particular city, the devotees are welcoming you with kirtans. And many of them are in tears of ecstasy. And after a few days when you leave, again they are dancing and singing and they have such ecstasy. Many of them are crying when you are leaving. He says, Prabhupada, I am with you, but I never have tears. And Prabhupada smiled and he said, but you are serving me. But you are serving me. So Prabhupada focused more on dedication than on emotion. So devotion has both these aspects, but Prabhupada focused more on dedication, how we are consistently serving Krishna. So devotion can be manifested as emotion, and emotion can lead to ecstasy. But devotion can also manifest as dedication. And this is what Srila Prabhupada especially focused on. How dedicated are you to serving Krishna? Because ultimately it's a relationship. And see, when a mother sees her small baby, the mother may be delighted to see the baby. That's wonderful. But if the baby is hungry, the mother says, baby says, Mommy, I'm hungry. And the mother says, I'm so happy to see you. I'm hungry. I'm so happy to see you. I'm hungry. I'm so happy to see you. Well, okay, if you're happy, make some food for me, isn't it? So, a real relationship is not based only on emotion. It It is based on dedication. And emotion is important, but dedication is even more important. So in our tradition, Srila Prabhupada, so in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we'll see so many symptoms of ecstasy being described again and again and again. And just a few days ago, a devotee asked me, is it that, at that time ecstasy was there, now ecstasy is not there? What has happened? Have we lost access to the mercy? It's not like that. There is ecstasy there even now. But we don't emphasize the ecstatic symptoms. The very fact that devotees are able to be dedicated. Now, why would somebody be dedicated unless they are experiencing something higher? None of us, nobody is holding a gun at our head and come to the temple. Chant Hare Krishna, otherwise I'll shoot you. Nobody is doing like that to us. We are all practicing voluntarily. Any of us can choose to stop practicing right now if we want to. So why are we practicing? Because either we are experiencing something higher, or we have experienced something higher and we have the confidence that I'll experience more of it in the future. And that's why we are pursuing this. At least with our intelligence, we have understood that this is the path to a better life, a richer life, an internally richer life. So we emphasize the emotion not as much as the dedication. In fact, we de-emphasize the emotion, because the emotion can be easily imitated, but the dedication cannot be imitated. That's not so easy. So day after day serving Krishna, day after day cooking for Krishna, or speaking about Krishna, or doing various services to Krishna, that requires real devotion in the heart. So that is the emphasis, and that is what we should pursue. And I'll conclude with one last point. So we went through the 4 quadrants, and now, so do we want the inner experience? Yes, we want the inner experience. Do we want the symptoms of the inner experience? If we get it, that's wonderful. But that's not what we want separate from the experience. We want the experience first. And how do we get the experience? That is through the stimuli. There are certain stimuli. Stimuli is, if we expose ourselves to Krishna, then what will happen is, we will be slowly moving toward getting those inner experiences. So if you come and take darshan of the deities, we participate in kirtans, we hear Krishna Katha, we read Shastra, we go to the holy dham, basically the 5 potent forms of devotional service. And we continue to serve Krishna. Not just as one part of our life, but our whole life, we are centered in Krishna. And as long as we are giving ourselves the stimuli, eventually the experiences will come. So in one sense, from the ultimate perspective, if we consider these are the stimuli, experience, and symptoms. So what is important is, we want the experience, but experience is not in our control. So we could say in terms of, if we can have it in terms of importance, we could say this is one, the experience is most important. Then the stimuli that are producing the experience, and then third is the symptoms. But in terms of our control, our capacity, what is in our control is the stimuli. Now, this is second. So we focus more and more on just regularly exposing ourselves to the stimuli. And we don't do it in a ritualistic way. Right? I saw one cartoon of, what was it called, people do this multitasking. So there's multitasking in bhakti, that was that cartoon. And that was what? A person was doing puja with one hand, and the other hand they were looking at a phone. Well, that is not going to lead to any experience of Krishna. We're not doing the puja as a ritual. We want to connect with Krishna. We want to experience Krishna. So we make sure that the stimuli, we are exposing ourselves to them wholeheartedly. And then that will lead to the experience. And once the experience comes, sometimes the ecstasy will come, sometimes the symptoms will come, sometimes the symptoms may not come. But that doesn't matter. What matters is we focus on the stimuli and expose ourselves to the stimuli as much as we can. That's why Prabhupada in the Updeshamrut says that devotional service is not sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. He said its substance is practical service. Practical service. So this is the practical service means keep exposing yourself to stimuli. So Prabhupada says devotional service is not, we can say to be like a pendulum. It is not sentimental speculation. One devotee told me recently, when I first came to the temple, actually I looked at the deities and Krishna winked at me. Now, can Krishna wink at someone? Well, who are we to stop Krishna from winking? If he wants to, isn't it? Some devotee says, Krishna came in my dream. And even new devotee can say that. Somebody not devotee, they can also say that. Now, can Krishna come in their dreams? Who are we to stop Krishna from coming, Krishna doesn't need anyone's permission. Krishna doesn't have to care for that person's qualification. But the important thing is not whether Krishna winks at me or Krishna comes in my dream. Yes, if Krishna came in your dream, that is wonderful. But your spiritual progress will depend not so much on whether Krishna came in your dream, but what you did after waking up from the dream. Isn't it? Because that is Krishna's mercy that he came in the dream. But what are we doing to connect with Krishna? That means Krishna is going out of the way to connect with you. But are you doing something to connect with him? That relationship is reciprocation. So that's why Prabhupada says it's not just sentimental speculation. Oh, Krishna winked at me, Krishna came in my dream. It could be, it may be, it may not be. It doesn't matter. As devotees, we don't publicize these things. Even if it's an illusion. That, okay, I had Krishna as a dream, or when I saw Krishna smiling at me, Krishna winking at me. Well, even if that's an illusion, it doesn't matter. It may be reality, it may be illusion. The important thing is, if we are experiencing something in relationship with Krishna, accept that as his mercy. But we don't use, why it's not sentimental speculation? Because mercy is not meant to be a trophy. That means, I got mercy. See, everyone, I am such a special person. Now, no ordinary panchang. You have to offer dandavat to me now. Not like that. So, mercy should never be treated as a trophy to prove one's superiority over others. Mercy is something we internally are grateful for. And we cherish it internally. So, Prabhupada says it's not sentimental speculation. It is not imaginative ecstasy. Imaginative ecstasy means that we are not saying that just by my imagination, oh, I'm feeling ecstatic today. And then tomorrow that imagination doesn't look, I don't feel ecstatic today. Well, no. Sometimes people go from ecstatic to completely static. Just don't do anything at all. But no, its substance is, if you could say, the middle of the pendulum, that is, it's practical service. So consistently, we expose ourselves to Krishna. And by this, we will grow in our spiritual life, steadily, surely, and sublimely. So I'll summarize. We discussed 3 main points today. The first point was I discussed about the analysis of ecstasy in terms of its 3 components. What are the 3 components? The stimuli, the experience, and the characteristics. And then we discussed the 4-quadrant analysis. And in that especially, we focused on the experience, we could say the best is the inner experience and the outer symptoms. But the worst is no inner experience and outer symptoms. And discuss that can be just it can be mildly harmful, but can be toxically harmful also, especially is the Sahajic way of saying that it is a divine couple enjoying through us. So discuss Tantra can be useful in bhakti if it is selectively used. Sattva is pro-devotional, but Rajas and Tamas same thing cannot be said about it. So that if all forms of matter indiscriminately are claimed to be taking us towards spirit, that will take us away from spirit. That 4-quadrant analysis, that was the second part. And the third part we discussed was we focus on consistent exposure to stimuli. We don't focus on ecstasy. We don't focus on the external symptoms. We don't focus on the inner experience. We focus, because that is what in our control. We regularly expose ourselves to the bhakti stimuli, and they will lead us toward the inner experience, toward the ecstasy, and ultimately towards eternal, joyous, loving union with Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare, Hare.
Hare Krishna. So, can we go for question answer?
So is this the stimuli or the symptom?
Krishna, devotee can raise their hands.
Yes, please.
Krishna, thank you so much for a wonderful lecture. Prabhuji, we see that we have symptoms of mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Do we have limited so is there a limitation of the symptoms in the Shuddha Sattva? Because in Sattva we have a limited symptom, passion limited symptom, and ignorance limited symptom.
Well, are the some symptoms of Shuddha Sattva also limited? Well, it depends. Each devotee has their particular relationship with Krishna, and based on the relationship, the symptoms will be different. So, for example, the devotees in Vatsalya Ras, like Yashoda Mai, for her, a symptom of her love for Krishna may be that milk will start overflowing from the breast. But that's not the same symptom that is going to Nanda Maharaj, or that's not the same symptom that is going to Radharani. There are different relationships, so there are different flavors in the relationships. So, even in the spiritual world, each of us is a limited being. We don't become unlimited. We love the unlimited. We don't become the unlimited. So therefore, the symptoms that we will be exhibiting in the terms of our relationship may be finite. Generally, the more appropriate word in the spiritual domain is finite, not limited. But either way, the point is that there are many devotees, and different devotees may have different symptoms. And because there are innumerable devotees, in that sense, we can say that the symptoms of ecstasy can also be unlimited. However, it's not that every devotee will necessarily exhibit every symptom of ecstasy. Okay? Thank you. Yes, okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much Prabhuji for explaining this in a very analytical and graphical way. So, Prabhuji, I had a question. In our bhakti tradition also, many times it happens is that many times all the peoples obviously are not that philosophically strong. So many times what happens is that they portray a particular emotion of a particular person who may be bona fide as a spiritual ecstasy, and they present it like that in front of others. So, and this also leads to many Jat Kathas. So,
many?
Jat Katha means ki folk tales.
Okay.
So, how we can avoid that and to remain more authentic?
Okay. So, sometimes we may be inspired by a particular devotee, and then a particular saint, and then some of their characteristics their followers may take on. And those will be seen as signs of ecstasy. Do I understand your question properly?
Just like, for example, recently a video was circulated where Narsimhadev of Mayapur, the Sheshnag was moving. So many people just portrayed it and circulated it as if this is actually some miracle of Lord Narsimhadev. But actually it is made like that it will always move. That was not known to public in general. And it was made a big point after that. And we also see that many spiritual masters, they also exhibit a particular kind of emotion, but not out of the...
Okay.
So devotees, they concoct some pastime out of that.
If, say, some event happens, and that event is seen as a miracle, yes, or as some spiritual experience, or a spiritual symptom, but it may not actually be a spiritual symptom if you scrutinize it. Yes. Then those who are not philosophical may just accept it uncritically. So what do we do about that? Well, it depends. In general, we don't want like sentimental speculation or imaginary ecstasy. So it is important that such things not be propagated widely, and wildly, both. But having said that, see, for some devotees, these are the kind of things which may nourish them. Is that healthy nourishment? Well, maybe not the healthiest nourishment. But if that is the kind of nourishment that they seek, and if we say, hey, this is all speculation, this is all false, they will start treating us like enemies. So we have to be careful, because we have to also be sensitive to that particular devotee's feeling. That doesn't mean we don't tell the reality, but whether we have to tell it to them at that time, or the way, if they are very strong about it, we don't have to tell them. It's not our responsibility to educate every devotee. It's for us to make sure that misconceptions don't propagate everywhere. So what we do is, especially this kind of things should not go to outsiders, because people in general are quite rational, and especially initially they are going to explore spirituality very rationally. And when it seems irrational, they will just reject the whole tradition. So we could say that if there are insiders, there are outsiders. And you could say there are like senior insiders. This is senior, and these are, so there are well-informed outsiders, and there are like new outsiders. So you could say that these are intelligent or educated. So even among outsiders also, some people may have studied about Hinduism, they have studied Bhagavad Gita. By outsiders means those who are not within the movement. So within the insiders, there has to be proper education, so that which symptoms are actual symptoms of ecstasy and which are not, they are properly communicated. But sometimes when that movement is going on, when that particular idea has come up, whether at that time to talk about that or not, that is something which has to be carefully decided. Because if that time we talk, sometimes a lot of people may be benefited, but a lot of people may also get alienated. So we have to be careful whom we are speaking. But in general, this kind of thing should never be spoken from insider to outsider. And the worst will be if this starts happening. Oh, this is what the Hare Krishnas believe. This is moving, and they claim it to be a miracle. Then people will start laughing, we will become a laughing stock. So that we want to avoid. So yes, we definitely want to avoid this, but how to go about doing it, that has to be done a little more sensitively.
So my point is also in personal cases, because it becomes very difficult for us to believe whether the person is saying whether it is actually true or not, because we have been hearing so much stories till now who have proven, or we got to know later that they were actually folk tales, they were just created. So it becomes very difficult, and our mind becomes very skeptical in accepting the things. So how should we go in our personal case for whenever we hear such kind of incidences?
See, sometimes we say our mind is our enemy and we have to control it, but it's not always true. Because our mind is something, it's a tool for us, and each mind is in a particular way. Some minds are more rational, some minds are more sentimental, some minds are more impulsive, some minds are more reflective. That's just the way we are. So we have to practice bhakti in a way that works with our mind. We are not working for our mind, but we have to work with our mind. I may say my mind is the enemy, but it's like our mind is like India's Pakistan problem. India has to live with Pakistan. So our mind is not, we have to live with our mind. So we have to have a working relationship. So if my mind is more rational, then I will be evaluating things rationally. Then better I try to find association that is also like-minded. That's why it is said like-minded association. Prabhupada translates this like-minded. It doesn't say like-hearted. Like all of us are devotees of Krishna, so we are like-hearted in that sense. But we need not just like-hearted association, but also like-minded association. Okay? Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I am doing my graduation in physics and also doing college preaching services. But sometimes I find it difficult to balance between spiritual sciences and material sciences. What should I do? I have full conviction in scriptures and Krishna, but I feel like I am not being faithful to my subject, which is physics.
In what way do you find it difficult to balance? Any specific theory, any specific
Sometimes
idea?
in preaching, we have to discard some scientific theories. And because I also study physics, I find it difficult whether to...
Like which theory are you talking about?
Like Big Bang, evolution, etc., etc.
Okay. So, it's an important question, and we'll need 1 hour to answer this. But I'll try to explain this briefly. See, sometimes science and spirituality are seen as opposite to each other. And that's when the question comes, how do we balance it? So, there is the principle. First I'll talk about a principle, and then we'll talk about the application of the principle. See, when one event happens, if there is an event, now that event can have a cause. It will have a cause. But that event can have many causes. So for example, or rather let's put it as cause 1, and you can call this as cause 2. You can call this as cause 3. Say simply, if I am feeling cold right now, it could be because this window is open and some air is coming from there. It could be that I am not wearing warm clothes. It could be because I am having fever. It could be because I am not accustomed to this weather and I am coming from a warmer part of the world. So the same event can have multiple causes. So we have to find the different times when we are analyzing, we focus on different causes and we deal with them accordingly. So consider the event which is said to have started the scientific revolution. That is, Newton saw, or people say that apple fell. Some people say it fell in front of him, some people say it fell on him. Whichever it is. So that event started the scientific revolution. Now Newton believed in God. Like he wrote a lot about God also. But when he wanted to know what made that apple fall, he was not saying God made the apple fall. That was not the level of explanation he was looking for. He was looking for more of a mechanical explanation, an explanation in terms of mechanisms. So we could say the apple fell. There is a mechanical explanation. And then there could be, you could say, a spiritual explanation, spiritual cause. So at different times, we focus on different explanations. So we could say, in general, science focuses on mechanical explanations. And spirituality focuses on, not just, we could say it's spiritual, you could call this as more of a personal explanation. I'll explain what I mean by this. That, say suppose there is a India-Pakistan cricket match. The last ball, 6 runs are needed. And then the Pakistani bowler bowls, and maybe Virat Kohli or somebody is batting. He hit, the ball comes as a bouncer, he swings it, hits a 6. And if everybody is celebrating, and after the post-match interview is there, and the interviewer asks, how did you hit that 6? And Virat Kohli says, by Newton's laws of motion. Now, that is a correct explanation, isn't it? You could say, by Newton's laws of motion, you can calculate, okay, the bowler bowled at this speed, the bat was moved at this force, the ball and bat met at this angle. If the ball had hit the bat at the top, then it would have ballooned up and the fielder would have caught it. So Newton's laws of motion is a correct explanation. But is it the relevant explanation? No, there what we want to know, how did you develop the skill to hit a hook like that? Or how do you anticipate that it's going to bowl a bouncer? How did you balance, how did you manage your pressure at that time? So we are looking for a personal explanation. So the mechanical explanation is correct. But at that time we are looking for a personal explanation. So similarly, for various events, there could be multiple explanations. So for example, in our tradition, it is said that how do rains come? It is Indra who sends rains. But in the same tradition, the same Bhagavatam, the same 10th canto, where it is said that Indra sends rains, there is also an example given that a good king should be like a cloud. The cloud takes water from the oceans and provides water on the land where there is no water. Like that, a king should take taxes from the wealthy people and should give facilities to the poor people. So that clouds are formed by taking water from the earth. This is a mechanical explanation. That there is Indradev involved, that's a personal explanation. So both, the Bhagavatam is also aware of both explanations. So mechanical and personal explanations can both go together. So what happens is science focuses on mechanical explanations. However, there is science and there is something called scientism. Scientism is basically scientific imperialism. Like imperialism means we alone rule the world. So scientific imperialism holds that the scientific explanation is the only explanation. It is the only explanation, and there are no other explanations that are allowed. They are not valid at all. So what we are against is not the scientific explanation. It is the claim that the scientific explanation is the only explanation. So could the universe have come from a Big Bang? Well, if you consider that the universe comes out of Vishnu's body, so it comes out and it expands. So there is a broad similarity. There could be dissimilarities, but we don't have to. So we don't have to go on a campaign against the Big Bang theory. Even evolution, it is not the theory that is the problem. It is the claim that is extrapolated from the theory. Like in the Bhagavatam, it is described in the 10th canto that one of the 64 skills that Krishna learned was plant breeding. Plant breeding means what? You take a rose flower, rose from here and take a rose from there and two different colors and you interbreed the roses and then a nice hybrid rose comes out. It's plant breeding. So that's a natural phenomena. And Krishna is expert at that. So evolution in terms of a mechanism, that's not a problem. Now can we say that that there are changes in nature? Yes, there are changes in nature. Living beings change. Now do all living beings come by such change? Is it that there is no cause required for this except the mechanical cause of a gradual change? Well, that is not proven by evolution. What we have observed is living beings change. The extent to which they change, can an amoeba change into a human being? We have not observed that. So that is a claim which even science has not proven. But the mechanism, see, when science is very strong is where there's mechanism. And the mechanism of evolution, that living beings change, there's no questioning that. There's no need to question that. But it is when science claims that this particular theory is the only explanation. Like we have no issues with gravity. In the Bhagavatam says that it is Krishna who sustains all the planets. Krishna sustains the waves. Bhagavad Gita also says. But we understand that Krishna doesn't work automatically. Krishna works through mechanisms. So one of the mechanisms could be gravity. So if we just understand that science and scripture, science and spirituality are addressing issues at different levels, then there is no conflict. The conflict comes when both ways it can come. When science starts claiming this is the only explanation, and there is no room for any spiritual explanation. Or even spirituality starts claiming that this is the only explanation, there is no room for scientific explanation. But we don't do that. At least we shouldn't be doing that. Some devotees may do that. But we don't, that is not our philosophy. Because even in our tradition there is Ayurveda. Now Ayurveda is what? We are looking for a mechanical explanation. Isn't it? If somebody has a stomach upset, what is it? It's mechanical. What is the disturbance between balance of kapha, vata, pitta? We are not saying you have a stomach upset because Lord Vishnu is angry with you. No, we don't bring the personal explanation over there. No, that may be also valid. But we look for we look for a immediate mechanical explanation. So if we understand that these two approaches explain reality at different levels, then there is no need for contradiction between the two. Okay? Thank you very much. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrit. Okay, we stop. Okay, one question. We'll take some.
In today's verse, pride is mentioned as one of the natural symptoms of ecstasy.
Sorry?
Pride
has
been mentioned as one of the symptoms. So what kind of pride is this?
Okay, when you say pride is mentioned as a symptom of ecstasy, see, the word pride has like a spectrum of meanings. You could say pride can at one level refer to arrogance. But another level, it can refer to honor. Like sometimes there is a hotel named Hotel Executive Pride or Hotel Pride. There are lines like that, but there's no hotel arrogance. At least as far as I've seen, there's no hotel by that name. So the idea is, see, pride itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It is what we do with that pride. That means that, see, every individual needs a sense of self-worth. We are all, the world is so big and we are so small, we all get the feeling, does my existence even count? Do I even matter? And that can lead to a lot of inferiority and insecurity. So the sense that my existence counts, that I matter, we could say that a sense of cosmic specialness, that it doesn't have to be an expression of ego. That could be just the natural need of the human heart. So the idea is that when a devotee experiences ecstasy, has some inner experience, that devotee treasures that experience. That devotee delights in that experience. That devotee may not publicize the experience. That's a different thing. So generally arrogance means that I want everyone to respect me. And anyone who doesn't respect me, I will use all my power to destroy that person. That's arrogance. But honor means, it's more like I'm special in some way. It could be, like Krishna tells Arjuna that you belong to the Bharata dynasty, you're the son of Kunti. So you have to act in an honorable way. So I am special because of my connections, and therefore I have a responsibility to behave in a proper way. So that honor is not a bad thing if the sense of honor prevents us from acting in dishonorable ways. So similarly, that pride, it's more of, oh, Krishna has been so kind to me, Krishna has been so merciful to me, that I'm so grateful. A devotee feels special, but that speciality is not in parading one's superiority to others. The speciality is in terms of treasuring one's relationship with Krishna. Okay, thank you. Yes. Any of the Matajis have questions? Okay, we'll come to you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for this wonderful lecture. I have just 2-3 doubts. I will ask them quickly.
Okay, one at a time.
Okay. The doubt is that other than bhakti culture, some other institutions also say that matter can help to reach the divine, but they deal the deities like a tool. They say like deities is a tool, and we treat the Lord himself as one of deities. We don't differentiate between Lord and deities. So what should be the attitude in auspicious tantra category? What should be the attitude?
Okay. If some people see matter as a tool towards spirit, the problem with that is that I have written the book on this whole, what I talk about tantra, I have written the book on deity worship, called idol worship or ideal worship. So there I've talked about this. There are this whole idea of spirit to matter. There could, see, this is spirit, this is matter. There are two conceptions over here, that the spirit is formless and there is a form over here. And the other is, I could put it over here like this, there is form here and that form manifests as a form here. And these are two different conceptions. So we could call this something like ascending symbolism. So this is, what it means is, an example of this is flag. Now, if you say, be patriotic, love your country, feel love for your country. Well, it's difficult. How will I feel love for my country? If you see a flag, then you salute the flag. So, patriotism is like an abstract emotion. But a flag is a concrete symbol that helps us experience the emotion. It's a concrete symptom. So, this is the idea of the Advaitic tradition. That God is formless, but it's very difficult to feel anything for the ultimate reality. So therefore, you visualize the ultimate reality in a form, and that's why they have the idea of a Ishta Daivat, and they say, you can worship whichever form you want. And then the gurus will say, you can worship Shiva, Vishnu, you can worship Ganesh, and you can worship me also, because I am also Brahman. So that's the idea. But, so ascending means, here the link between the concrete form and the abstract object is in our mind. It's through our ascending imagination. So if tomorrow the Indian government decides that agriculture is not very important for us, so we don't need 3 colors in our flag. We can remove the green color. Is it possible? Yeah, it just needs a constitutional amendment for that, isn't it? So there's no intrinsic link between the tricolor and love for India. We could replace that by some other symbol also. However, that's not the same with descending symbolism. The idea is that there is God who has an original form, and his form is replicated approximately through the deity. So an example for this could be a photo. Say a husband has a job which is far away from the town where the family is staying, and the husband comes back home, and the wife is taking his things for laundry, and she sees in his wallet there is a picture of some other woman. Yes, who is this? He says, actually, I'm thinking of you only, but I just kept a photo of someone else. No, there is an intrinsic connection between the photo and the person. You can't say that I am seeing this photo, but I'm thinking of someone. No, the photo and the person, there is an intrinsic connection. So like that, between the form of the Lord and the form of the deity, there is an intrinsic connection. So our understanding is, it's not a tool. The tool is like the idea of an abstract being manifested as concrete. But there is a concrete at the spiritual level manifesting as concrete at a material level. Okay?
And another question is that if someone is maybe exhibiting some this outer symptoms, maybe it may be deceptive or it may be authentic, but how to avoid a judgmental attitude that he is something deceiving or not?
How to avoid a judgmental attitude if somebody is exhibiting some symptoms? Well, generally it's best to consult devotees, senior devotees, and see what they say about it. Because our own judgments may sometimes be wrong, sometimes it may be right also. Sometimes we think there's a matter of concern, and we may need to tell some senior devotees, okay, this is a matter of concern, and otherwise they may not know about it. So best to consult senior devotees. Okay? So, last question, then we'll stop.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I just want to know, Prabhuji, for whatever science says, so many theorems they have given, we easily believe in that. Means scientists give every matter contains electron and protons. We haven't seen electron and proton, but still we believe in that. We have study, we haven't seen Prithviraj Chauhan, still we believe. But Krishna also appeared 5,000 years in this world. But why we need so much explanation to explain that Krishna exists, and Krishna existed 5,000 years? Means for spiritual science, to understand spiritual science, we need help of material science. Why it happens for this? Why we become so complicated to explaining the simple subject matter? Hare Krishna.
Okay, good question. So, science also talks about many unprovable things, or invisible things you could say. But we tend to believe them relatively easily. Whereas, with respect to spirituality, for anything which is not visible, not empirically observable or provable, we need so much proof. Why is that? Yeah. See, there are two things over here. There is, the science ultimately offers us models of reality. And those models have some uses. So we could say the models themselves are offered by science, and the uses are offered by technology. So more people actually claim to be scientific than are scientific. Like for example, if you use a mobile, millions and millions of people use mobiles. But how many people actually understand how the internet works? No. If you ask a million people who use mobile, they may not even have heard the word electromagnetic waves. And if they ask how electromagnetic waves propagate, they don't have no idea. So what happens is, there are tangible uses which people see. In general, faith goes from the visible to the invisible. So people see the visible benefits or the visible workings, and based on that, they accept the invisible tenets. So now science, in many ways, through technology, shows us certain visible benefits. And because of that, the invisible postulates which science makes, the propositions, theory that it makes, we tend to believe them. Now, there is something valid about it and something invalid about it. The invalid is that not all scientific theories lead to tangible benefits. And that's why I rather think of all of science as one thing, and because this technology is working, therefore I believe in science. Well, in science there are different ways theories are proposed. So for example, the laws of motion, they are proposed through induction. Induction means repetition. Now, if I throw up an object, it will fall down. So in one sense, there's a demonstration of gravity. So in general, scientific theories which come from induction are much more reliable because they can be repeated. Whereas scientific theories about the origins, whether it is origins of life, origins of the universe, or even ideas about, say, continental drift theory, origin of some earthquake-prone zones, why they come about, all these involve a lot more speculation because those cannot be repeated. We cannot put the universe in a lab microscope and say, now recreate itself again. Let's see if it happens by Big Bang. We can't do that. So all science is not born equal. All science is not born equal. So the Newton's laws of motion are much more on a stronger empirical and scientific footing than, say, the Big Bang theory or the theory of evolution or things like that. So, but we don't understand this, we often don't understand this difference between various kinds of science. And that's why any technology which works for us may lead us to believe in any kind of science. But okay, this technology can lead me to accept this science, this scientific theory, but not necessarily all scientific theories. So conversely, what happens is for religion and spirituality, now there are uses. Again, because the spirituality also offers us certain models of reality. These are not models, we can say they are reality, but in one perspective, we can say there is a model. So when spirituality offers us a model, so the question is, what is the benefit of this model for me? So for example, even non-theistic people, not aggressively atheistic people, but non-theistic, those who don't believe in God, if they come to a place like a temple, or if they go to a holy place like Vrindavan or Rishikesh, they experience something special. They feel this place has some vibes. I feel calmer over here. I feel different over here. That's the experience. And when they have that experience, they also become a little more open to higher realities. And then they tell them the theories, they'll accept that. But unfortunately, many people have negative experiences about religion. And more the number of people who have negative experiences is the negative portrayal of religion. And these are superstitions, these are restrictive, these are regressive, this is like old-fashioned, this is blind faith. It's propagated in the media quite a bit. And because of that, because visibly we see things don't seem to be working, or things seem to, some of the uses or some of the implications of scientific theories of the spiritual philosophy seems to be in terms of some restrictive or irrational practices. And because of which people say, I don't want to believe this. Why should I believe this? But it's like even science has its things which are misused. Because the technology, we say medicine cures us, but there are so many medicines which have side effects. There are some medicines in which the side effect is the main effect, isn't it? So there are toxic things, but what happens is people feel overall this is doing good. But unfortunately, with respect to religion, people feel overall, I don't know whether this is going good. So they want more faith. That's just the way it is. We can't expect it to change. But what we can do is, we can try to show people more and more of the benefits of religion. There is in Europe a very influential book called Religion for Atheists. Why? What their idea was that Europe, especially UK and many parts of Europe, is the world's most atheistic continent. We think of America as very materialistic, but actually in the Western world, America is the most religious country, far more than UK or France or Australia or anywhere else. But what they found is that religion offers some material benefits. So for example, when people come together to a temple or a church or a mosque, they feel a sense of community, they feel a sense of belonging. When they do certain rituals, they feel a sense of connection, they feel a sense of stability. And so they are saying that we can just criticize religion and we can say God doesn't exist, there's no proof for the existence of God, it's all his dogma. But that is not going to replace the felt need of humanity that is served by religion. the felt need for community, the felt need for connection, the felt need for stability. And therefore, they are now they have something called churches for atheists. And atheists come together and they sing songs about atheism together. It is Nastik Kirtan. Now, what they are doing is, they are only having they think that all this is produced only by the outer. Like today, in terms of today's analysis, they are thinking that this inner experience of peace comes just if you do the external symptoms. Come together and sing something, we'll feel good. Well, it's not that simple. So, but the point is, there are felt benefits. There are felt benefits of religion and spirituality even in this world. Whether the soul exists or not, whether you believe the soul exists or not, you come and sit in the kirtan with an open mind and you will experience something higher. Anybody can experience that. So we need to focus more on sharing the felt benefits and not focus so much on sharing the philosophy. If people experience the benefits, then they become more open to philosophy. Does that answer your question? So thank you very much for the thoughtful question. And thank you very much for your many thoughtful questions and active participation. So, Shri Chaitanya Charitamrit ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Hitai Gaur Premanande.
So we have some announcements. So we are very grateful to Prabhuji for his wonderful session and question answers interaction. So we'll thank Prabhuji first of all by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.